Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. This is Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. Today, I wanted to recap Mr. Dennis Byron's live that he did on YouTube around lunchtime or so. I will, of course, put the link in my description box as well as the link to his socials so you can follow him on social media platforms. But it was a nice, 20 minutes or so of an update on what took place this morning in the courtroom on day 5 of the trial of the Cardi B lawsuit against Tasha K. And, of course, some of the live updates were that, really Dennis Byron did this so that he can have a legal expert, an attorney to speak to what is actually happening in the courtroom, as well as to provide a different perspective and, really educate the audience on some of the legal terms and legal things that go on inside the courtroom from both the defendant side as well as the plaintiff side as well as the jury and the judge and so forth. So let's get right to it. So as you'll recall in my previous videos of some of the morning updates, Sherry Blake, who was Cardi B's psychologist, testified in the courtroom today that their treatment started in 2018, that essentially Cardi B's managers noticed that she was sleeping all the time. She wasn't able to focus. She was restless. She was depressed. She didn't want to go to work or do some of the things she was supposed to be doing. So, they wanted to discuss kind of the timeline of how she assessed Cardi B the first time she met her versus where she is now. And even from 2018 to 2020, there was just a serious decline over those past couple of years. And, again, reiterated that Cardi B was suicidal, that there was a very thorough risk assessment. And I want to keep in mind, for those of you not familiar, risk assessments are only done if somebody is suicidal or has suicidal ideation or is contemplating suicide. They're not going to do a risk assessment for somebody who is not suicidal or is not exhibiting any symptoms or behavior of not being suicidal. So, and then she did a really good job on the stand, really expressing to the jury what emotional distress means and how a lot of times people don't appreciate it or don't understand the depths of it. And so that really kind of helped put some things into perspective. So essentially the, psychologist, she gave the example, the analogy of, being stabbed numerous times. And that each time Tasha K is saying something defamatory, each time Tasha K is saying something slanderous, each time, Tasha K is saying a lie that Cardi B has herpes, every time Tasha K is saying a lie that Cardi B is a prostitute, every time Tasha K is saying a lie that Cardi B, did the thing with the beer bottle, every time, all of these lies that keep amounting, each of all of those videos that kept coming out, all of the gaslighting, all of the, things that kept taking place, each time is like an additional stab and you're bleeding internally. And I felt that was very profound. And it was very graphic. It was very visual. But it had a significant impact on the jurors. So, and then they wanted to give another example, a real life example, like say somebody comes into the courtroom right now and stabs somebody, your immediate instinct is to help because visually you see somebody getting stabbed, you see externally that person's bleeding and in pain, and you want to go run to their aid, you want to go run to help them. So, but every post, every video, every upload, every comment that was made to, defame, slander Cardi B or, again, continue to put out lies about Cardi B, even though you have the receipts of what the truth was in your inbox, in your DMs, each time that kept occurring was an internal stab to Cardi B. And essentially there's ramifications of that. And emotional is not something, like I said, you don't always see it. And because of the severity of the situation and the condition that Cardi B was in, she felt helpless, essentially. So, again, Sherry Blake, she spoke to her qualifications. She was considered an expert witness, which means that essentially Cardi B's legal team spent significant time with her and to, review her qualifications, review what information transpired, what actually took place in these therapy sessions that is going to be significant to the case, to speak to how much this has impacted Cardi B. And so, again, Sherry Blake, she has over 30 years of experience. She has been on several TV networks, has had several awards, several platforms. She is considered very, credible. She also created a treatment plan for Hurricane Harvey. And, she has simply said, hey, she was trying to develop different coping mechanisms for Cardi B from 2008 and 2020 because over the course of those 2 years, Cardi B severely deteriorated. And so, as Cardi B had testified last week that she had flew out this therapist, the therapist, testified on the stand. She had spoke to the New York City hotel she went to, but she couldn't exactly recall which one. But essentially, the meat of what she was trying to describe was an episode and everything that took place in her assessment of Cardi B, that she was laid out, she was lethargic, she didn't want to do anything, she didn't have any interest, she had just wanted to sleep and had been sleeping for several days, which is a common thing that happens when people are severely depressed. They just don't want to do anything and they sleep for several hours, for several days, and this and that. And they really wanted to ride home how effective to create the imagery for the jury so the jury can picture everything that this psychologist is saying, so that they can, it was as if they could be picturing what is actually happening real time as the therapist is taking them back to everything, to kind of where this started a couple of years ago, once the slanderous videos and comments and everything else started taking place. And so, BRITTNey Dobbins also wanted to say that just because she's an attorney, she also said that her mom's a psychologist as well, that also does a lot of testimony for her cases. So there was a lot of perspective that she had too. And so, she had wanted to explain that it's hard sometimes to convey emotional distress because it's severe, it's traumatic, and, but she did an amazing job doing that. So essentially, again, they wanted to just write home that Cardi B's depression and anxiety kept getting worse over time and is still taking place now. They really wanted to write home that Cardi B did not want to sue Tasha K at first. She was trying to exhaust all available options without having to take this to federal court. She just simply wanted the video. She wanted the comments. She just wanted everything to be taken down. She just wanted everything to stop, essentially, because the therapist basically suggested to Cardi B to just kind of take it upon yourself and allow the legal team to just do what they need to do to take care of everything. So that way Cardi B is not consumed with all of the stress and all of the drama and all of the negativity that is associated with going back and forth with Tasha K, and, in hopes to decrease the stress of having her attorneys, have point on it. So essentially, that's when she spoke to how Cardi B tried to reach out to the defendant, which of course is Tasha K, several times to try to take down these videos, to try to take down these posts, to stop with the slander, to stop with the defamatory comments, to stop posting and repeating and regurgitating the same lies when the receipts of what the truth was sit right in her, messages. Also, it just got to a point where the lawsuit had to happen because nothing else Tasha K was doing. Like, she was trying to reason with Tasha K and none of it was working. So then the defense, Tasha K's attorneys, wanted to do cross-examination of Cardi B's therapist. And so their rebuttal was essentially trying to say that they didn't see in there that, where does it say explicitly, suicide in some of these assessments, and trying to make points to try to summarize that what Tasha K has done to Cardi B. How has that made her suicidal? How is that being conveyed in, what this therapist is saying? And so essentially, Cardi B's attorneys did a really good job of presenting to the jury as well as to the court that, hey, a risk assessment is done only for people who are at risk for suicide. That is, in fact, what they call, instead of, just saying, oh, this is suicide or this person's suicide, but they come up with specific assessments, just like they come up with a behavioral scale to determine certain behavioral disorders, just like they come up with a risk assessment so that you can find out how severe somebody is that is suicidal. So I felt that that was very good because it was a good supplement to the analysis to show that in, the realm of this space, in the realm of therapy, there are several different assessment tools that are for specific reasons and for specific diagnoses that may not explicitly just say, oh, suicide, and say risk assessment, which means based off of these scores, are you a high or are you a low risk of suicide? Are you a danger to yourself or danger to others? Like, it's going to go through all of the appropriate questions in assessing somebody's suicidal risk. Nobody that is not suicidal or not exhibiting symptoms of being suicidal is doing this risk assessment. So again, they wanted to, again, the therapist said that it doesn't have to be in the report that Cardi B is suicidal because the risk assessment and the results of that risk assessment speak to that. So then they rested their case. So then Tasha K, she had 30 minutes of testimony before lunch, and essentially Brittney Dobbins was trying to be nice, but it sounded like it was a hot mess. And she was examined by her attorney, Olga. It was very difficult for her defense attorney to get through the testimony through several different points that they were trying to make. Cardi B's attorneys kept making several objections because the line of questioning it was so leading. They kept trying to lead Tasha K into certain answers as opposed to Tasha K just being able to receive the question and answer it accordingly. It was almost as if they had to direct her on what to do and what to say. And so it was very unusual if you were just talking about your history, your qualifications, different things that you've done throughout your life, how all of a sudden all of that needs to keep getting interrupted by objections. It's very unusual is what Brittney was saying, if you're basically just trying to establish who this person is. So then it got to the point that not only Cardi B's lawyers were calling for objections, but then the judge, chimed in and said this was inconsequential to lead Tasha K at this point. So even he was getting a certain type of way. And so he encouraged the defense to stop to stop doing it and not to do it any further. However, it kept doing it. It kept happening so many times after, both Cardi B's attorneys called it out as well as the judge called it out, that the judge had to call for a break so that they could explain to the jury what is actually happening and why, from a legal perspective, that trying to ask all of these leading questions is not really helping, the case at hand, the trial at hand. So they essentially, wanted to convey that significance as to why there keeps being objections of leading the testimony. So then the question was asked, what type of impact does that have on the jury? And so Brittney said it's hard to say because there could be strategy, in objections. And the goal is essentially what it made to be appear to the jury or to people sitting in the courtroom was that you couldn't even get through a basic 30 minutes of just introductory information about Tasha K, that you had to take a break and explain things to the jury, that the judge had to intervene and everything else. There was just so many interruptions. So that definitely can be a concern of the jury as to how is something basic being dragged out or being so difficult to explain. And so, Brittney said basically it's hard to predict from the jury, what if that's going to be positive or a negative. So, and then Mr. Dennis Byron was asking Brittney, when you're preparing a case, do you go and, have these types of preps with your client, or what is the extent of that? And so Brittney essentially said that, what'll happen is they'll usually prepare you for what's going to occur on the stand. And they'll do maybe some sample questions usually to see how you'll respond initially. But sometimes it's not like this full out tutorial. And Brittney also spoke to her expertise, which is defamation, copyright, music law. And I think she was also one of the top 40 lawyers under 40. And then also she had spoke to, basically Dennis was asking, okay, originally they said that this trial was supposed to go till Friday, but he's not sure that he sees this going all the way up till Friday. And he wanted to know from her, would there be any situation to where there's like a surprise witness or something that might come out that might extend this trial beyond this week? And so she said that usually does not happen. And it should, pretty much be whatever is on that latest witness list should be what it is. So, and then essentially she was describing Tasha K on the stand, that she kind of is treating this like her talk show, in that she is taking authority, trying to command the stand and trying to make it her own. However, she was fumbling with the mic. She was requested several times by the court reporter as well as the attorney to slow down because she was just talking very fast. So the goal of these things is for people to have a seamless testimony, a seamless case, and it just seems like there's been a lot of bumps as it involves the defendant and the defense team and everything else, and with this testimony. So essentially, from Brittney Dobbins' perspective, it felt a little awkward and a bit fumbled. So that essentially was all from this particular live. I felt it was really good. Again, I will link, of course, in my description box so you guys can check it out yourself, for those of you who missed it or those of you who would like to see it again. Also, it was funny because Choke No Joke came in towards the end, and I guess he was like filming everything, because then he like hijacked his live to also film Mr. Dennis Byron and Brittney Dobbins talking and everything else. And Dennis was joking that he needs his own security and he needs to be like Cardi B, that has like her two big security people. So, but that's essentially it. Cross didn't last long earlier today with Cardi B. Her therapist spoke to everything that she pretty much corroborated that Cardi B was going through and why she sought out a therapist in the first place during this time period of when the defamation had started up until this point. And now, we have Tasha K on the stand. So I presume Tasha K is still going to be in the stand the rest of this afternoon, I'm guessing. And then we will get a update, I'm sure, later afternoon, close to earlier this evening, so we can speak to what takes place then. And let me know your thoughts. What do you guys think of this latest update of trial day 5 of the Cardi B defamation lawsuit case against Tasha K? What are your thoughts? Please let me know. Those of you, if it's your first time viewing my channel, welcome. Please check out my playlist. I have a specific Cardi B and Tasha K defamation lawsuit playlist where it is specifically for all of the trial updates that is being reported on primarily by Mr. Dennis Byron, so that you have everything you need. I will always have links to Mr. Dennis Byron's social, so you can follow him on all social media platforms, as well as I will link in my description box the live that he did a little while ago during lunch to also give more in-depth information of what took place this morning, as well as having an expert attorney to give the legal side of things of how it looks and why certain things are done in the courtroom and how that can impact the jurors. But let me know what you guys think so far. How do you think the day is going for both Tasha K as well as Cardi B? How do you think things are happening? How do you think they're going for either one of them? I'm curious to see your thoughts. Those of you who've been at my channel several times, who've been supporting, thank you so much for your continued support. I am grateful. I am thankful. I am appreciative of each and every single one of you. Blessings to all of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys again very soon. Have an amazing rest of your day. And I will be back later with an afternoon update of what took place this afternoon on day 5 of the trial. Talk to you later.